All right, let's jump in. Welcome, everybody, to today's discussion inside the minds of today's automotive job seekers. Today, we're going to be going into the profile of today's modern automotive retail employee and talk about what it is that's causing us to have so much trouble finding and retaining them. And I think some of these results might surprise you. Nice to meet everyone here. If we haven't talked before, my name is Adam Robinson. I'm the co-founder and CEO here at Hireology. Today, we work with just about 25% of all automotive franchise retailers in the United States. So 1 in 4 new car dealers running Hireology to address some of these problems. And just as a result of this scale and experience in the industry, we've conducted a study. We do it twice a year, and I'm going to release the latest results to you now about the state of automotive hiring. This isn't theory. This is based on the real-world experience of both dealers in market and job seekers who are applying to your open roles. So I'd like to start out today with a quick overview of today's market conditions. And I just want to start by saying it really feels as though there are two conflicting job markets. On the one hand, you've got the white collar tech and professional services space. Many businesses in these sectors have been grappling with an employment recession and outright revenue recession, layoffs, hiring freezes, due to, we'll just say, low cost dollars and maybe some post-pandemic hangover, which has left the number of active job seekers in these professional sectors outweighing the number of open jobs, which means you got more people looking than jobs to fill. And so we're starting to see the market really backing off there. But that's not the case for us in automotive retail. So like with other industries that employed essential workers through the pandemic, the automotive retail space is facing a completely different reality. And I know everyone here understands that. We're living through it. There is a massive shortage of qualified mechanics and technicians available to meet demand. We're having trouble filling sales and advisory roles. And this is in part, of course, due to the pandemic, which served as a catalyst for workers to reevaluate careers and what they're looking for in an employer. But it's also due to decades of declining enrollment in tech schools, combined with a large amount of retirements of those in the baby boomer generation, hitting the technician market really hard. And the shortage of qualified workers for these types of roles impacts you and your dealership's ability to service cars and customers, and therefore really impacts your bottom line. And so all that is to say that it's critical that dealerships find ways to recruit, hire, and retain workers. But given the supply and demand imbalance, which remains near historic highs, workers in this sector really still have the upper hand, which means that we need to take the time to figure out what it is they want and how we can meet them where they are and meet their needs in terms of the design of the job, in terms of our hiring process, and in terms of employee experience. And so that's exactly what we set out to do this year with our annual applicant research, which I referenced in the intro. We do this research every year to better understand job seekers and to help us better support our customers. So this year we surveyed just under 500 automotive industry job seekers with questions around the following themes. First, what expectations do you have for the application and hiring process? Second, what are you looking for in a new role? And third, what keeps your best employees loyal in this industry? And so we broke the results down into 6 different takeaways, which represent the primary characteristics of the modern auto industry job seeker. So if you're sitting in on this call, these 6 takeaways, I hope you can bring back into your dealership to help you think differently about approaching the biggest issue for most of your businesses out there. So first and foremost, what our research shows is that job seekers in this industry are absolutely eager to get to work. So it's easy to assume that the problem is simply what it used to be last year or the year before, that people were reluctant to get back to work, to give up unemployment benefits or state and federal benefits. That's yesterday's story. That's just not the case anymore. The data shows us quite the opposite. Those seekers are actively looking for work and are ready to be interviewed, and they're ready to be hired and they're ready for all of that to happen really, really quickly. And so I think a large reason behind this dynamic is, of course, inflation eating into real wages. It's the spend down of pandemic era stimulus and benefits, and ongoing concerns around a pending slowdown in the economy. So people want to get to work, they want to make money, and most people, frankly, can't afford to be on the sidelines in the job market these days. So, in fact, our research found that more than a third of respondents to the survey said they want to be interviewed, not just contacted by you, but actually interviewed within 48 hours of applying to your job, while 61% said they'd like to be interviewed within 3 days. So what that means is, to meet where your job seekers are, that means your team needs to be equipped to not only contact your applicants immediately after they apply, so within 24 hours, they need to be ready to be in the dealership or on a video call for an interview within 48 to 72 hours. Now, your average dealership is time to first interview is somewhere approximating 4 or 5 days. And so we have a lot of ground to make up in this industry to compete for talent in a way that they expect us to. Well, why does this matter so much? Well, because 47% of our respondents to the survey admitted that they would be likely to ghost, right, just drop out of the process, if those expectations for timing weren't met by you. So in other words, by simply waiting too long to schedule your first interview, you are missing out on a huge chunk of the labor market. So those who are likely taking jobs elsewhere at competitors for their labor that are moving faster than you. Again, the expectation is, after I apply for a role at a dealership, I want to be interviewed within 72 hours. That's 61% of the market is telling you, if I'm not interviewing within 3 days of my application coming across, I'm moving on to someone else who's meeting that expectation. Another point of evidence to this argument that most job seekers are eager to get on your payroll is that 61% of respondents in this survey say they accepted the first offer they received in their search. So they're not waiting around to compare offers. If they're good with the job and the offer, they're taking it, period. And if you think about it, this really tracks car buying behavior. I mean, buyers of cars are seeing fewer dealers now. If you've got the vehicle and you've got a price that works, they're going to buy from you if you're the first one in front of them, right? You want to be first with the offer to sell that inventory. You want to be first with the job offer. Same behavior really applies here. 61% of the market is gone if you're not first, putting real pressure on you. Again, they want to be interviewed in 3 days, and then 61% of that group's going to take the first offer they get if it's right. And so that, I hope, helps light a fire around the thinking around speed in your hiring process. Now, along with being eager to work, job seekers in our industry are open-minded when it comes to where they look for work, meaning the channels through which they look for work. They're not just relying on a single channel to search for jobs, and they're not putting all their eggs into 1 or 2 baskets. So let's take a closer look at this data. First, let's look at what I mean by not putting their eggs into 1 or 2 baskets. 23% of the market say they apply to more than 16 jobs when they look for work. In their most recent job search, they applied to more than 16 jobs. And a total of 38% say they applied to 11 or more open positions. So what this means is that when someone applies to your job, they're talking to 10 other employers at a minimum in addition to you. And so if you're not able to give them what they want in terms of speed of process, or in terms of the characteristics or configuration of the job itself, they're casting such a wide net. It's so much easier to do that these days. They're casting such a wide net that they can quickly move to other options. So the question I want you to ask yourself and answer here is, what are we doing at our dealership or in our dealership group to stand out, to be faster, to be more thorough and comprehensive in this process than the 10 to 15 other employers this individual is talking to? If we're not first, we're likely not going to win that hire. And so similarly, these applicants are not going to rely on just 1 or 2 channels to look for their jobs. They're going to see what they can get across a range of sources. So not only are they applying to lots of jobs, they're finding employment opportunities across a range of sources. So of course, by and large, general job boards like our friends and partners at Indeed are the most commonly used source. We all know this. We have to be there. And we ask people to check every one of the channels that apply in addition to job boards. And you'll see that no other source really stands out at the second highest. You've got job boards like Indeed out there at number one, with Indeed being number one. But people are still Googling. They're going to social media. They're going directly to your career site, and they're asking their friends and acquaintances. So in other words, people are searching high and low for the right opportunity, and they're not leaving any stone unturned here. So for you, that means your chances of reaching the best possible job seekers out there is by having a presence on a range of channels, not just ads on job boards. And so nearly every dealer we talk to or work with is invested in a relationship with Indeed. And that's of course important. But what many fail to do is diversify their opportunity beyond just job boards. And so I want to talk a little bit more about that. Because I want to talk a little bit about referrals and employee referral programs. So I think it's really important. So while in the last question, only about 37% said they're actively networking with friends and peers when looking for work, 74% said if someone they know and trust vouches for a dealership, they're much more likely to apply to that job. Of course, that makes intuitive sense, but this speaks to the benefit of having your referral program incentivizing your team members to be your best recruiters. And so by and large, job seekers will apply to jobs if someone they know encourages them to do so. But because they're not necessarily seeking those networking opportunities out themselves, what makes the employee referral programs work their best is to give your existing team capabilities to do the outreach and start those conversations. So it's the difference between waiting people to walk in and say, my friend Adam referred me, and giving me a tool to push your open position out to my network at the dealership I work at and essentially say, hey, I work at a great place. You should come take a look. And so, of course, that's where a great referral program comes into play. But really, you've got to make sure you've instrumented it correctly. You've got to constantly communicate your open roles and make it really easy for your team to submit referrals. So if you've got a referral program, and many dealer groups do, but you're managing it with a spreadsheet and with email or links on a website, the operative word here is easy. Make it easy, which means making it mobile, make it scalable, make sure you're tooled correctly to do this. And so, of course, you also want to pay a fair reward or bonus that's appropriate for the role that you're recruiting for. And we know automotive retail job seekers have left no stone unturned in their search for what's right. They're applying to lots of positions. But what does right mean? So it's easy for dealers to assume that job seekers are simply holding out for the highest paying option. But the reality is that job seeker expectations are far more nuanced than that, especially in automotive retail. So of course, pay matters, and it always will. But workers today are willing to take lower paying jobs if the rest of their expectations, or most important alternative expectations, are met, and that's your opportunity to shine. And so let's take a look at those expectations. So we asked applicants what they would do when presented with two options with the exact same pay range. So we're in this study assuming pay range is equal and fair. What we found was only 8% of automotive retail job seekers said they will always choose the higher paying option. Said differently, what that means is 92% of the market says they'll take a lower paying job if the right benefits and configuration is available. And so, and this is up considerably. It's up almost 10% from 2022. And so which benefits would job seekers prioritize over pay? I mean, I think what they've learned as everybody chased wage inflation last year is more pay doesn't mean better life, right? Other things matter, and those things in order of priority are schedule flexibility, number one. If I come to work for you, are you willing to be flexible and work with me in the way my life is configured today? Career growth, is this more than a job? Is there a path? Do they have the opportunity to learn and grow? And then finally, a combination of good workplace culture and fulfilling work. So work that has meaning in a place where I feel like I'm included and part of the team. So these are the things that, as you think about what you're selling, if you will, when you're advertising your positions, it can't just be pay and it can't just be responsibilities. We really have to sell flexibility, career growth, and a great place to work. And then it needs to actually be true when they walk inside your doors. So while benefits like schedule flexibility and career growth are fairly easy for all of us to define, and for job seekers to identify, culture is a little more of a black box issue, and it means different things to different people. And it's not always clear at face value what an employer's culture might look like. And from your perspective, it's not always obvious what job seekers are even looking for. And so we asked respondents an open-ended question to define what good company culture means. And so I'll read a couple of snippets here. And there's some words you're going to see consistently: inclusive, kind and caring, open to accommodations. They care about us rather than seeing us as disposable. A supportive environment with enthusiastic leaders with a clear vision, good corporate culture, positive work environment that values and supports employees. And so when you boil all that down, the themes are very, very clear. So if we're designing a message to the market about what it's like to work at our dealership. Now, of course, this has to be true. We can't sell things that aren't real. But I would say for the vast majority of dealers who care a lot about the culture of their business, these are the things we've got to highlight when we're talking to the job market. First, well-defined core values. Then you've got feedback given when appropriate, either both positive and constructive. I want you to tell me where I stand. Third, there are growth and training opportunities for all roles. That's a function of culture and really feeds one of the things that they care most about when looking for work. Widely reported that the workforce needs to be diverse and inclusive and everyone's treated equitably. So as we seek to diversify our employee base to match the profiles of the customers in our communities, we have to make sure we're driving diverse and inclusive hiring practices through our content and process. And then rounding out the list would be leadership that's transparent. Help me understand how this place is run at a high level so that I feel like the employer I work for is one I believe in. And then finally, people treating each other with kindness and empathy. Sounds like a great place to work to me. Of course, harder to deliver day to day. I mean, that's the role of us as leaders in this industry, but these are the things your job seekers are searching for today. And almost all of these characteristics, this is the good news, all of these characteristics are possible for you to control. So these are not things like pay rate or availability of talent that are out of your control. These things are in your control. So define clear core values and talk about it in your recruitment marketing. Put videos on your website of people that work for you talking about what it's like to work there, and prioritize hiring people who connect with those values. So at Hireology, we actually have a core value interview step in our hiring process where we interview a potential hire through the lens of our core values. And it's important because it gives them an opportunity to ask themselves, is this the kind of place where I'm going to feel great every day? And it gives us an opportunity to say, hey, is this the kind of person that's going to fit in here? And so it's also important, of course, to offer feedback to employees and to train managers on how to give that feedback, to build out and talk about career paths. And then you've got DEI strategy, which starts at the top of the organization. Bottom line here, golden rule is still, the tried and true way to think about this. Always being open and honest with your team and leading with kindness is something that, many of us aspire to do every day. And so some of this might feel simple, but I think as we all know, as a whole, this is really difficult to pull off consistently, particularly across a multi-rooftop automotive group. And so, but this is what your customer, if you will, is looking for today. And so I think where most orgs run into trouble with this is when members of the organization and management want to do these things, but leadership isn't really saying these things are important and they want to talk about them. And so factors like empathy, inclusion, and transparency just aren't going to propagate through your dealerships, if leadership doesn't lead by example and talk about these things as important. And when we asked the survey respondents where they go to determine whether or not a potential employer's culture fits their definition, 31%, the most said they start with your website. So surprisingly, this ranked higher than third-party review sites like Glassdoor, which over the pre-COVID years was the #1 destination and starting point. Now it's in second place at 26% of respondents. Your career site is the #1 most important asset you have to tell your story to the market, because that's where they're going. And so this shows just how much people value what you're putting into your own branded recruiting materials when it comes to employment branding. And as I often say, someone coming to your website might be there to buy a car or schedule service. They might be coming there to look for work. They might be looking for a car and be so impressed with your employment brand they decide to apply for a job. Conversely, they may have had such a wonderful experience talking with you about employment, they decide to give you their car business. And so, your brand, consumer brand, employment brand are really the same thing. And so if you don't already have a career site that tells the story of your dealership in your communities that you serve and your approach, and it illustrates your culture, it's really time to do that now, because not doing that puts you at a real distinct disadvantage. So as a society, we all know this, we become accustomed to convenience in all aspects of our lives. I'm telling a group of people who just spent the last 10 years, figuring out how to sell cars without talking to anyone in person. And so ease is everywhere in your business now. And then outside of it, everything from ordering food to booking flights to scheduling appointments can all be done instantly and on any device. But the job search is lagging everywhere, right? Searching for a job remains the one antiquated business process that most businesses just have not optimized for today's job seeker. And so most people expect applying to a job at your store is going to be as easy as ordering a ride share. Again, given the number of jobs that they have available to them, they're just not going to complete an application or a hiring process that's overly complicated if they don't have to do that. So let's dig in at the next level of data. More than 3 out of 4 respondents to the survey said they completely gave up on an application because it took too long to complete. Similarly, 58% said they chose not to apply to a job at a dealership they were really initially interested in because the application required them to repeat information that was already on their resume. And then another 48% said the same thing about applications that required them to create a login with a username and password before they can apply. So again, compare this to something like ordering food or an Uber or something from Amazon. I mean, you could do that easily online with one click. So why is applying for a job that much harder? I mean, how much information do you ask from an internet lead before someone gets in touch with them? I mean, it's name, an email address and cell phone in most cases. What I want you to do at the conclusion of this webinar as a homework assignment is go to your own dealership's career site and attempt to apply for a job, and just note the experience. If you have to create a login to submit an application, you can bet you're losing candidates who are just dropping out of the process. Do you have to retype your entire resume with your thumbs on your phone? Or do they make it really easy? You really got to think about this. So audit your own dealership career site and application process and just note the experience. And really where you want to head with this is to gather the bare information up front and then weed out non-qualified candidates through automation and screening and eventually through interviews. And so don't use an application that's really lengthy to do the weeding out for you, because it will. You will weed out everyone who's got plenty of other opportunity out there, right? And so, you ask the question, are the only people willing to jump through all these hoops folks who have no other options? That's a factor, right? We want the best, and the best are just not going to jump through the hoops that you've set up for them. You got to make it really easy. Job seekers' expectations for ease don't let up after they've completed the initial application. So 51% of respondents admitted to ghosting an employer at some point during the hiring and interviewing process. 51% just bailed. And this number is up substantially last year, like 2.5x up. Only 20% made the same confession in our research in 2022. Pretty sizable jump. So what's up with that? Why are candidates ghosting so frequently? Well, the number one reason for ghosting in automotive retail is a lack of communication and transparency from you, the employer, which is followed by a process that went too slow, and then finally a slow initial response. All three of these factors can be tied back to ease and speed, and all three of these factors are entirely within your control to change. These applicants want it to feel seamless, fast, and transparent, and if they don't, they're going somewhere else. We can control how quickly we communicate and respond. We can control how quickly we're running interviews, and we can control the method of communication and whether it meets them where they are. We can do all of those things, right? So the solution is sitting right in front of us. We just have to focus. And when it comes to lack of communication from the employer, we followed up and we said, what exactly do you expect here? This is, somewhat mind-blowing. 31% of job seekers for our dealerships want to hear from us at least once a day. And 65% want to hear from us at least every 2 days. So said differently, if we're not checking in with the people we have in our hiring process every day or two, as long as the process is running, your chances of being ghosted is really high. It's about 50%. What does ghosted mean? It probably means they just took work somewhere else and didn't bother to tell you that. And after all, if you're not being responsive, why would they do you the courtesy of letting you know that, right? You're not being responsive. Why would they be responsive? And so the cycle continues. You can control all of these things. But ways to check in with them daily through text messaging or email. If they've got an interview coming up, sending reminders and notifications, just keeping them posted, keeping them engaged through the process while the process is moving quickly. So much like convenience, it should also go without saying that smartphones are the thing. They dominate our daily lives. They have for years. They power everything from daily communication to paying bills to ordering what we need. And again, applying to a job and moving through the hiring process is no different. And so this is especially true for the roles that we're hiring for in this business, where they're not at a desk, they're not at a computer all day, right? So think about the day-to-day lives of our workforce. Take technicians, for example. They're on their feet all day. They work long hours. They're standing in the bay. They're not in front of a desk. So they need to be able to apply, communicate, and take action with your recruiting team and your managers, and complete other hiring-related tasks like filling out paperwork. And they need to be able to do it digitally. They need to be able to do it mobily. They should not need to sit in front of a desktop. Chances are they don't have one, right? But they've got a mobile device, and they can do that on their break. They can do what you need, but if you're not making it easy, they're just flat out not going to do it. And so, in fact, double clicking here, when we asked what device they use from the majority of their most recent job search, nearly 50% said smartphone, 15% said a tablet, and only about a third are using a desktop or laptop. So this means the vast majority are using a mobile device of some kind to run the entire process. So if you're not equipped, more specifically, if the technology you're using to receive applications and process them is not friendly to mobile, you are losing people, right? It's just making it harder. And so let's look at that even further. 52% of respondents said they've actually given up completely, just gave up on an application because it was too hard to do on a mobile device, right? So you talk about the notion of conversion rates in digital marketing, and something everyone in this industry understands. Our business is really built on it these days. You essentially have a 50% drop-off rate if it's too hard to do on mobile. Probably not unlike your drop-off rate when someone's searching for vehicle inventory. So not only do they prefer a mobile device in this process, more than half will actually quit the process and just move on to the next one if it's tough for them to use their phone. Again, when you audit your application process, do it on a mobile device and note the experience, right? If it's less than stellar, hey, good news is you know where to start. So what's more, job seekers have also admitted that text messages are where they want you to talk to them. So 53% said texting is their preferred channel, while about a third was neutral and only 14% disagreed. And so again, largely this is because they're on their phone all day. You think about your own experience. It's something I like to do when I talk to dealer management teams is everybody get out your phone, open up your text messages. How many unread text messages do you have? It's not uncommon for the entire room to say 0, certainly less than 5. Then we open up our email account. How many unread personal emails do we have? I'm sitting somewhere around 18,000. I get emails from everyone trying to sell me stuff and, God knows what else. I don't make it a priority to respond to personal emails. The things that are important to me come in through text message. So if you want to make an impact, you need to change from email to text messaging as your preferred method of communication for job seekers. Again, no different than what we're doing with consumers. Consumers reply to text, they don't reply to email. 99% of texts are opened, a third of emails are opened. I mean, it's staring you in the face. So ask someone in your dealership, can we use text messaging for recruitment marketing and communication? And if the answer is no, you can explore some ways to do that. Hireology is certainly here to help you make that transition. Changing gears. Now that we've outlined everything job seekers expect throughout the application and hiring process, what happens when you get this all right? So let's talk about what happens when these things are true for your dealership. Let's say you make a great hire because your process was easy, it went quickly, and the job offer and configuration met their needs. Now what? Well, for most dealerships, the reward is loyalty, which ultimately means better retention. It's a reduction in turnover. It means better customer experience. It means better product knowledge. You sell and service more cars, and that means you're making more revenue and more profit, right? Retention equals bottom line impact. And so the way to get that right is by doing the things you say you're going to do. In fact, 70% of auto industry workers say they're loyal to their current employer. That's at the retail level. It's not all auto, including manufacturing. That's automotive retail. 70% of workers say they're loyal, right? So they want you to get this right. They're giving you the benefit of the doubt here. The top reasons for loyalty include, number one, pay. I'm paid fairly. Second, career growth opportunities. And third, their colleagues, right? I'm loyal because I like the people I work with. I'm loyal because I'm growing my career. And I'm loyal because my pay reflects the value I provide to the business. And so while pay does top the list, it's important to note that doesn't mean the most pay. It means fair pay, right? And so this indicates simply hiking wages is not the answer. You don't have to just push that button every time. That's a textbook definition of a commodity where you're competing on price. And so we want to get out of this trading time, labor time for money business, and we want to start to offer things that we can control. They want to have a job that gives them opportunities to grow, gain fulfillment, and pay a wage that's fair, that meets their needs. We can control, again, all of these things. And so another factor influencing loyalty is onboarding. We get through this whole process and we hire somebody after running this gauntlet. And then, we do things like forget to tell HR that we hired someone and they show up on their first day and no one expects them. Or they've worked for us for 2 weeks and they don't get their paycheck and they tap someone on the shoulder at the cashier's window and say, do I get paid anytime? I mean, this has happened to all of us. We've seen it. How well you train, welcome, and integrate a new employee into your dealership can make or break your long-term relationship with them. And so in fact, 85% of respondents to automotive retail positions who reported a positive onboarding experience said they're loyal to their current employer, compared to only 39% of those who reported a negative onboarding experience. So in other words, the best thing you can do to increase loyalty and therefore increase retention is to make their onboard experience exceptional. And it starts with a great day one. And a great day one starts with being ready for them, right? It means they are twice as likely to stay with you for 3 years than someone who reports a negative onboarding experience. This loyalty extends even after people choose to leave your organization. 2/3 of the respondents in our automotive retail survey said they would be willing to return to your dealership to work for you again if the experience there was positive. So this speaks not only to creating a culture people really appreciate and are willing to return to, but also maintaining relationships with employees after they leave. And so the latter involves building a database of previous talent and nurturing those contacts via messaging about updates in your organization. So maybe you've got new programs, maybe you've got new positions, maybe you bought a new store, maybe you're opening a new point, all of the things that might be worth talking to prior employees that are eligible for rehire. We forget about those. It's almost like we open a position and start from scratch with leads. The best investment you can make is to nurture your candidate database of applicants and former employees and their referrals. And when we do that, we create an asset that builds value over time. And that's really the secret to success here in winning this war for talent. So to summarize our 6 main takeaways, today's auto industry job seekers are, number one, eager to work. They want to get back to work. This narrative of people not wanting to work, by and large, that's a 2021 story. It's not today. They're casting wide nets. They're looking everywhere. So you got to be everywhere. They value more than pay. So the good news here is the things they value are things you can control. But the whole process has got to be really easy. You've got to meet them where they are, which is not in front of a desk. And if you do these things and pair it with an exceptional onboarding experience, you're going to drive loyalty, and all of those things are what you want. And so while I did offer some advice throughout this presentation, I want to give you some really clear takeaways here. So most of what you can do in response to what we covered today can be summarized into 3 categories: speed, quality, and intelligence. So let's start with speed. We also know from this applicant data that what automotive retail job seekers want is to get hired really fast. So optimize your process so that you can not only capture the seeker the moment they apply, but also move them through a fast vetting and selection process. You know, if you're looking for a benchmark, if you can do that inside of 5 business days, you're going to win far more than your fair share of these job seekers. So that means exploring mandates within your management team for response times. And of course, embracing tools like Hireology that allow you to automate a lot of the manual work and efficiently communicate with candidates. So all we're focused on and what we're building today are ways to automate the hiring process, to speed it up, and to report back to you on how all that's going, so you have the tools to manage this. Let's talk about quality. Of course, 10 quality candidates is better than 100 poor quality candidates. So aiming for quality over quantity is important, right? So we don't want to create work we don't need to do. We want to first build jobs that job seekers actually want. We want to deliver a product that the market wants, and the best of the best dealerships do this. Job seekers, as we discussed, have a dozen or more options for work when they look. So we really got to offer what they're looking for. So whether that's flexibility, culture, or career growth, we have to put that front and center in our process. Reaching quality candidates, not just volume, but quality candidates, means diversifying your sourcing channels. So reimagined employee referral programs that allow them to push opportunity to their networks. Content-rich career sites and a presence on leading job boards can help you cast a net that reaches the very best. And then finally, what can't get measured can't be managed. And so much of the speed and quality related tactics discussed here are almost impossible to bend the curve on without a baseline knowledge of what's working and what isn't. So you have to track metrics in your hiring process store by store, manager by manager. So you want to look at things such as sourcing efficiency, which channels are driving. I spent money here, did I get a return? And then what we call process adherence. is the team moving as quickly? Are we responding within a day? Are we interviewing within 3? Are we moving the process forward? My Toyota store might be on top of it, but my Ford store is lagging. Their average response time 6 days. I know, whether I'm the HR leader or the operations leader, I know to go talk to the Ford store about what they can be doing differently. Without that information, you're just hearing complaints about the lack of talent. So if you want to move from complaint to action, we have to manage these things. And from there, you can identify bottlenecks and opportunities for improvement and adjust your efforts accordingly. And so that's what I've got for you today here in a quick hit format. Of course, a copy of this presentation and a full copy of our applicant research studies available to you. I've left an email address here on the slide if you want to contact our team for questions. The team here at Hireology is always available to talk to you or your management team about how to improve this. We'd love to show you what we can do to help. And so to learn more about our hiring and HR platform, purpose-built for automotive retailers like you, shoot us an email, and we look forward to talking with you. So thanks. We'll see you out there, and make it a great day.